It's been a minute, but here he is. Brian Geisinger, basketball brain to the stars, joins me on the Adam Gold Show. Joins us, because it isn't us. It's not a me. It's not mine. It's ours, this show. All right, Brian, first of all, it's been a minute. I don't like going this long without speaking with you. Let's dig into NC State's roster transformation. Huge news with Darian Williams, who played at Texas Tech a year ago, and he was in the NBA draft mix, and then he decides to come back to school and play, leaving Texas Tech, which, frankly, I was a little surprised. Although, hey, NIL, everybody's moving no matter how successful you were. I thought he was, if not their best player, certainly one or two. Talk to me about what NC State is getting, and I don't know about why they are getting him, but what he's going to bring to the Wolfpack.
Yeah, it was either Williams or JT Toppin as the Texas Tech best player this past season on a really good team. Both very good players. For NC State, this is, to me, I mean, you don't want to oversell it necessarily, but it's a really, really important commitment because I think Will Wade, Andrew Slater, all of NC State's staff has done an excellent job this offseason, in the span of basically 8 weeks, microwaving a roster. They've done it through, international recruiting, retaining players like Paul McNeil, or retaining commitments, landing some other big-time commitments, and obviously a lot of work in the portal. But throughout all of that process, they've added a ton of talented players with, diverse skill sets. They still needed like a guy that could sort of make things go offensively and be like sort of the A1 playmaker for them. And with Darian Williams, they have that. This is a guy, I didn't see much of him at Nevada his freshman season, but I've watched a lot of him 2 previous years at Texas Tech. 6'5", 235 pounds, huge hands, super strong, and he's a guy that you can absolutely run offense through because he's a bulldozer with the ball. He can really pass. He makes good decisions, and you can use him in a bunch of different ways. You can post him up on the block. You can run pick and roll with him. State is certainly going to run a bunch of inverted pick and roll next season where one of the guards will screen for Williams and he'll look to turn the corner, or if he gets a switch, post up on the smaller guy. And again, he's great at commanding double teams and passing out of them. Like, he is kind of exactly what they needed. And because he brings so much playmaking juice at the power forward position, it allows you to just dot things around him with guys that can cut, that can screen, that can shoot. You can think of a bunch of different guys on the roster that are going to benefit from getting to play next to this guy because of his ability to draw two to the basketball and make good decisions with it and pass around out of it. I looked this up. Last season in college hoops, there were only 3 guys in the country, 6'5" or taller, that had over 25% usage rate, 20% assist rate, and under 15% turnover rate. Those 3 guys were Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper, who will go 1 and 2 in the draft next month. And the other third guy was Darian Williams.
Wow.
So this is a stud that Will Wade is bringing to Raleigh.
I mean, it is just so exciting. All the players, and and a couple of these guys were players we watched play deep into March too. Arsenault came out of who's leaving Houston to come here. I mean, he's a really good player who was a rotation player for a really good team, the national finalists, and part of the team that came back on Duke from 18 down in the second half. This is an incredible transformation of this roster.
Yeah, and I think Arsenault, if you watch Arsenault's progression at Houston, his freshman, so he just finished his junior year, or I guess maybe a redshirt sophomore season, but before he was injured early in the 23-24 season, he's a guy that had potential NBA type upside. So I'm a little curious to see if, I think at his floor is very versatile, positive, rotation player, makes winning plays and can play both forward spots and give you some shooting and some scoring and some defense. And knowing how much NC State's going to want to switch under Will Wade, you want as many of these sort of rangy, multi-positional defenders as possible. But there's even a chance a guy like Arsenault has sort of untapped, put the potential to get back to. Is he still sort of basically I think he's like 18 months removed from a pretty serious injury. So yeah, he had Achilles surgery, I guess late 2023. Yeah. So that takes a while to get back from. So I will be curious to see sort of like what his next level looks like. I really like the addition of Trey Holloman, the tough guard from Michigan State. And one of the things I've sort of talked about and written about in a few different places now is with Holloman and Darian Williams. We saw this past season so many teams could throw NC State's half-court offense into, could stuff it into a barrel by playing drop coverage.
Right.
NC State really didn't have any counters. Fortunately, Mike O'Connell, great player, just wasn't able to sort of like hit enough shots to really sort of like puncture holes in those types of coverages. Well, now with Williams and Holloman, you have two guys that can hit pull-ups off the dribble, that can score in the mid-range. And so I just think State has they have more answers now to different coverages that teams may throw at them. And I think with guys like Arsenault, McNeil, Matthew Abel, there's a couple like upside plays on the roster too that could also sort of like, maybe one of those guys develops into like the third scorer, you know what I mean, next season as things sort of fall in around Williams and some of these other guys.
All right, let me go to North Carolina, which has done a very good job getting you can just start with Visar from Arizona out of the portal. Where do you see the Tar Heels roster? To me, it looks a little short. I'm not talking about in height. Whereas last year they had all of their best players seem to be guards and perimeter players. It almost seems the other way. This year, I think there are a few guards short, but you tell me.
Yeah, I mean, they still probably need another wing right now, but their ability to go out and get, whether it was in the portal or incoming freshman recruit like Caleb Wilson,
right, to get
more size and length. But yeah, to get a guy like Jaron Stevenson from Alabama, 6'11", rangy guy that can play the 3, 4, and 5, and probably has some untapped upside to get into. And I'll be curious to see what he looks like outside of Alabama system, but a guy that I really like sort of as a multi-positional guy. You mentioned Henry Vezar. Like, I think he's going to be one of the best fives in the country next season and one of the best players in the league. Is a guy that you can run pick and roll with, pick and pop, big plays on the short roll, like great size, skill, really good mobility.
Yeah.
I think he and Evans is going to be a pretty dynamic pick and roll, pick and pop combo. Kai and Evans from Colorado State.
Right.
I've actually gotten to watch a decent amount of him the last couple of weeks while watching Colorado State film and doing draft prep with Nick Clifford, who's a projected first-round pick and was Evans' teammate the last couple of seasons in Fort Collins. Evans has like a really smooth game, like great shooter, can play on and off the ball, maybe not like a breakdown rim pressure guy, but his ability to score and make good decisions with the ball, I think is going to be is a really, really nice piece for Hubert Davis. So isn't it? I mean, I guess I mentioned him at the top. I can't remember if I did, but bringing Seth Trimble back too. I think you and I have talked about.
I love him
a few times too. His athleticism, his cutting. I mean, he's imperfect because the jump shot is always sort of like a wild card. But
right.
His transition, playmaking, the defense. He still brings a lot to the table for a versatile 6'3", 2-guard wing.
I agree. I mean, I'm team. I've always been team Seth Trimble. Love everything everything he provides. All right, let me finish this part of our conversation with Duke. They get the kid with Dame Sarr, who was playing at Barcelona. I don't know if he's the Lionel Messi of Duke basketball. I would have gone to Lamine Yamal first, but I'm guessing that most of our listeners don't know who that is. He might only be the best footballer in the world at age 17. He is a freak show to watch. Your thoughts on him and Duke's roster, which also seems certainly not as deep as a year ago.
Yeah, not as deep as a year ago, but still, they've got a 10-man rotation that's really, really good. I mean, it's been amazing, I think, the last 2 months, maybe even just the last 4 to 6 weeks to see what Don Shire and his staff have been able to do, because They had, Nate Ament. He ends up flipping, not flipping, but he ends up picking Tennessee. Duke was in the running for him. Sheldon Henderson, he flips from Duke to go play with Jay Lucas down at Miami.
Right.
It's all of a sudden Duke is in the market for a wing. They go out and they get Cedric Coward. They get a commitment from Cedric Coward over Florida and Alabama. Coward's a guy that I really, really liked at Eastern Washington and at Washington State. And he goes to the Combine 2 weeks ago, and he's basically like the breakout star of the Combine. He's being mocked, in the top 20 of some NBA mock drafts now. So then he decides that he's going to keep his name in the draft. And throughout all of that, Duke is then able to pivot to Dame Sarr, who would basically be like a top 15, top 20 recruit in this class and is one of the top 2026 draft prospects that's been playing at FC Barcelona the last couple of years. And, seemed like he was a Kansas lean up until basically John Shire called him, and said, "How about Durham?" And he very, very. It seemed like he was quickly, made his preferences felt that he wanted to come play for Duke, and so it seems like things, from the outside looking in, it seems like things moved really quickly. But to get a guy like Sarr, who can play on and off the ball, like has some on-ball capabilities, like, is for an 18-year-old can do some pretty good stuff out of the pick and roll. Don't think he's like a pure breakdown guy, but he can make some passes, he can create, he can flash. I think it's going to be interesting to see where his shot lands next season, because there are some statistical indicators to buy the shot. There are others to maybe be a little bit wary. I think he's got some stuff with his shooting base in terms of his form to clean up. But he's got a high release, soft touch, good rotation, like all of that sort of stuff. So really, really a nice piece to add on the wing, and a guy that I imagine should be projected to start at Duke, next to Caleb Foster, Isaiah Evans, Cam Boozer, who's going to be the best player in the league next season, and either Patrick Gongla or Malik Brown, which is going to be the best center platoon in the ACC next season. So yeah, this is not. You lose Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple. Those guys are really tough to replace. I think Duke has the chance to still be, a Final Four caliber team. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see the way John Shire and his staff orient this offense around a team that has some guys that can make plays with the ball, in the guard and on the wing, but has really, really good front court playmakers. Like with Boozer, Gongla, and Brown, you've got three guys that are 6'9" to 6'10" that can really pass and handle. And so I just think they're going to do a lot of like inverted offense, and there's a chance for them to do some kind of cool creative stuff next season too. So it's going to be a different look. I don't think they're going to have quite the ceiling of this year's team, which is not, it's not even a knock on this next group, because this year's team was just that special. But I still think on paper this has the chance to be something, to be really good. And they're going to have to get good quickly, because they've obviously got a pretty tough schedule, coming up early on in the season as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it should be. Final thing for Brian Geisinger, basketball brain at bgeis_bird. You can also find him on Blue Sky. Are those the three best rosters in the league? I guess Louisville probably is in the mix too. Are those? But as far as you could tell, are those the three best rosters in the ACC?
Yeah, I think Louisville deserves pretty strong consideration too. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to see what the Triangle teams have been able to spin, and obviously State getting Darian Williams is just like. I mean, he's one of the top 5 transfers in this cycle. So I would guess I would need to sort of like go through it team by team to sort of give you the most educated guess. But I would say Duke, Louisville, UNC, with maybe State not far behind. And if you wanted to shake it around and look at it differently, then yeah, maybe you have State, a notch above UNC. But it's early, still, early-ish. There's still some dust to be settled here. But yeah, on paper, I mean. It looks like the Triangle is set up to have, 3 pretty good ACC teams next season with, potentially, postseason equity and upside.
No doubt about that. Brian Geisinger at bgeis_bird at Brian Geisinger, right? At straight up Brian Geisinger on Blue Sky.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love
exactly.
it. Love it. It makes it so much easier. Thank you, my friend. Welcome back to the United States. I will talk to you very soon.
Yep, sounds good.